Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we're going to go over my first tournament of Arks of Omen with the Tyranids. It's been a bit of a long time coming. I've really wanted to see what they can do in the tournament scene. This was only an RTT, so no GTs or anything. I do have one coming up in a few weeks. A month, something like that. There's at least one GT I'll be going to in Arks of Omen. But this is just an RTT, first time bringing the Tyranids outside of our channel battle report. So I'll dive into everything you need to know about what my list was, how it performed, what I think the Tyranids are going to be like in the tournament scene going forward, and anything else I took away from that tournament. So that sounds good. Do like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios. If you want to support the channel, we have a number of ways you can do it. We've got channel memberships, we've got an Etsy shop, and we have a Element Games link for those of you in the UK, maybe Europe as well. So check those out in the description down below. Thank you members for supporting us. With all that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. Okay, so getting into it, this was a 24-player tournament, I believe. 3 rounds, so there were a couple undefeated players. That's just the nature of it. This was last weekend for when you're watching it, 2 weekends ago, technically, by the time you're watching this one. So let's go over my list. I was bringing a Behemoth Arks of Omen detachment with the OBSEC monsters. My HQs here were a Swarmlord, a Hive Tyrant with the Shard Gullet, and a Neurothrope with direct guidance. I really liked having those 3. I tried playing around some lists without the Neurothrope, but that reliable cast sitting in the back of your table is it's just too hard not to pass up. So I'm bringing it, and I had a decent amount of core in this, so I thought direct guidance would be a nice little touch there, and it did pay off. Troop choices, 2x15 Hormigons. They excel really well in Behemoth, getting up to Strength 4 and the ability to give them +1 to wound. Spoilers for the game, that really never happened, but that was the thought behind it, and they can really just shred through a lot of medium toughness infantry. Elites, I went 2x7 Gene Stealers. I think Gene Stealers have some sneaky play in Behemoth, going up to Strength 5 and the ability to give them, again, that +1 to wound. They're just like Hormigons. They can forward deploy and they can shred some infantry if your opponent is not careful. I brought a single lictor, great for behind enemy lines. Fast attack, I brought a Parasite with the Gestation Sac. I really like having at least 2 CP to start the game, and I figured I have so much OBSEC in my army already. The Parasite not having it isn't the end of the world, and I like the Gestation Sac for behind enemy lines purposes and for whatever case it might come up to need a free unit of Rippers. We have the Moloch, again, behind enemy line purposes and OBSEC, so I can really toy with my opponent if they leave an objective wide open for it. Heavy support, I brought 3 Screamer Killers with the Spore Cyst and Adrenal Glands. They do wonders in Behemoth, getting up to that nice Strength 8, and just being durable, a little bit of OBSEC, fast, killy threats, and finally a Tyrannofex with the Acid Spray and Dermic Symbiosis. Just, and again, a good shooty platform. Anti-infantry more than tank, but still a great durable platform with OBSEC too. So let's go on the games. This will be a bit of a quick recap, because games 1 and 2 were played against almost the exact same list. Just the way it worked out, 2 different players. I think they were buddies learning or making the same list together and both trying out variations of it. It was Gene Stealer Cult, which I have seen to be told one of the scariest armies to come up against. And I learned that yes, Gene Stealer Cult are absolutely terrifying. There is a way to beat them, but it is tricky. So the only difference between 2 lists is that the first person I played had one of his 20-man blocks in neophytes was a 20-man block, and the second person I played broke his final 20-man block up to do 10-man blocks. That's it. Otherwise, it was 5 or 6 20-man blocks of neophytes with 4 seismic cannons, flamers, grenade launchers, shotguns, banners, power picks on the leaders, you name it, everything there. They had a whole bunch of acolytes, minimum 5-man units for doing actions and screening, things like that. Typical set of characters, the banner guy, the icon ward, I know these, the Nexus, the Primus, Kellermorph, and then the assassin dude. That one I don't know because I don't use him that much, but he seems pretty good. So all of those characters are in there. 3 groups of bikes, basically bare minimums on them, but still having demolition charges and grenade launchers for screening and early chip damage, as well as getting some early line of sight or crossfire angles on your opponent, which was me. Game 1, I should clarify, or specify, or elaborate. That's the word. I should elaborate. I have not played against Genestealer Cult since 7th edition, and they have changed drastically since then. I have played as Genestealer Cult, so I understood some of the tricks and what to expect, but I don't know, someone who plays Genestealer Cult casually against, some people who really know what Genestealer Cult are doing right now is a very different thing. So game 1, I like to say, was quite the learning process for me. It still came out to be a 79-92 loss, but gosh, the list just had so many bodies. I mean, I'm talking 140 plus models on the table, and they don't do nothing. Their seismic cannons pack a crazy amount of punch when they go in there. So it's important to note there was no melee really in the list. Besides the icon ward's basic claws and stuff, it was just pure seismic cannon pain that was being rained down upon me. So many seismic cannons. Big thing I learned in the first game was I played too aggressive. I thought, okay, I got to go out and get these objectives. No, that's not how you play Genestealer Cult. How you play Genestealer Cult is find your 3 objectives you have to hold. Don't even try to max primary by holding 4 objectives in the game. Just don't try it if you're playing one of those 6 objective games. Find 3 objectives, hold those 3 objectives, and get 8 points every single turn and deny your opponent from getting 12 points every single turn. Genestealer Cult just play their own game. They have to kill, if they do everything right, just 1 unit a turn to maximize one of their secondaries, 15 points. They have to deep strike bodies everywhere, just in the corners, again, to maximize secondaries. The only secondary that they will struggle to get, if they go for Retrieve Knockman Data and you screen out that one corner, maybe they won't get it, but they're going to have a 5-man Acolyte squad that can pop in 3 inches away from you, and they'll probably just drop them down there, do it, and then they'll get their points. So really, let Genestealer Cult come to you, hunker in, do not just throw all your units in the open because they will kill them and they will kill them fast. And if you hunker in, you will deny crossfire or exposed lanes as much as possible, which when Genestealer Cult don't have exposed, it really starts to tone down their amount of shooting because getting +1 to wound is big on all of their shots. So I played too aggressive in the first game. I rushed some models out trying to take too many objectives at once. I applied those into the next game against, like I said, the same list. Played more defensively, let him come to me, not expose too many things, and did much better, much better. A 92-69 win on this one, so good there. All I can really say is the Genestealer Cult are absolutely terrifying. If I didn't have the Hormagaunts in this list, there would be, or the Genestealers, 0 hope for me. If you are a Monster Mash player for Tyranids and you go up against Genestealer Cult, you're done. I'm sorry, there's no hope for it. Unless you're bringing 3 Toxicrins, then you have a small chance just with the amount of attacks they can do. But outside of that, yeah, watch out. All in all, I take it as exactly why I go to RTTs, to learn, and that's what I did there. Now game 3 was a much more back and forth thrill of a game. Nothing against my opponents or the games there, but when you're playing against Gene Cult, it's a different kind of game. But my opponents were great. I'm not taking away from that. But this game, game 3, was one of my favorite games I had in a long time. Now granted, the game we just filmed last night at Battleport might trump that one, but I don't want to give any spoilers away. So this game was against a Deathwing. It was 60 Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators. I believe 6 of them had Cyclone Missile Launchers. Yeah, 6 of them had Cyclone Missile Launchers on them. He had Ezekiel, and he had a Champion in Terminator armor, obviously, with some cool halberd. That was it. That was the list. Just a buttload of Terminators. He combat squatted all of them, so he had 12 5-man squads of Terminators. So this game was a 5-objective game, objective in the middle. The mission bonus was kill a unit in the center, hold the center objective. I believe that was, oh no, it wasn't. It was priority objective, so hold your back objective. But he had secondaries to hold the center, and you just needed to for primary purposes. This one was an absolute slugfest. Secondaries I took were behind enemy lines, no prisoners, and warp ritual. I was worried about warp ritual. It turned out to not be what I was hoping to. My Hive Tyrant, who was the one to be going for the center and doing those casts, he died a brutal death. I had, what was it, 5 invuns I had to make, 4 ups obviously, 3 damage, and I failed 4 of those, and my Catalyst did not save any of them, and my poor Hive Tyrant got just smoked. Absolutely smoked. Was only able to get 1 ritual off. I did use my Neurothrope on the final turn. I basically sacrificed it to get up there and do a warp ritual, so that was okay. But I didn't get the max points on that one. That was my biggest miss there. The other things, enemy lines, I got 14 points on, and no prisoners I maxed out. This game was just so many dice rolls going back and forth. We had the Swarm Lord coming in there, trying to swipe down 5 Terminators and then only killing 2. And then next turn he tried to do it again and killed 1. And then it's just Swarm Lord was, but he couldn't hurt Swarm Lord. So Swarm Lord, by the end of like being in combat for 8 straight combat phases or 4 turns, still had 9 wounds or something like that because he could not take him down, and I just couldn't take him down. But on the flip side, I had 2 Gene Stealers go 5 Gene Stealers go 5 combat phases in a row with 5 Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators, and they actually managed to kill 3 of them on their own. They fell back to score some behind me lines points and then got absolutely obliterated by frag missiles from a unit and their Cyclone Missile Launchers, because those are terrifying. I mean, my Carnifexes trading, making great saves, him failing saves, me fail. I wish I had filmed. When I go to RTTs, there's almost always one game where I'm like, man, I wish that one was on the channel for everyone to see, because that game was so fun. So many wild rolls, great opponent. It came down to me being able to hold that middle objective a bit more than he was hoping to. And also, I believe I kept enough of my monsters alive. Well, no, end of the game, I still had 4 points that he could have gotten for grind, and I can't remember what some of his other secondaries were, but he was not able to max out secondaries, and he definitely wasn't able to max out primary. The biggest thing that I learned from this one here My Hormagaunts stayed in my deployment zone and just sat there until turn 4. Turn 4, one unit rushed out to get on an objective, basically sacrificing themselves to deny some primary points. And then turn 5, the other unit rushed into the center objective to claim that objective, again, to deny some primary points. And then they finished off Ezekiel, they finished off the champion, they finished off Terminator with a few wounds, just all a few wounds here plinked off. They're able to rush in and deliver the blow. Deathwing are absolutely terrifying, especially when I'm playing Behemoth, and my whole thing is to be stronger with my +1 strength, to get bonuses to wound with my psychic power, and actually I guess that's pretty much it. And then fight in melee, where Deathwing are very good in melee. They have bonuses to kill monsters with their assault doctrine, and they have transhuman. So I got lucky. I killed a good chunk of Terminators in the first 2 turns before he got to assault doctrine. Had I not done that, it would have been game over. But yeah, I love this game. Really good. The score was close. It was a close one there. So let's go over my list a little bit. I already talked about it, but how I think it overall went. Swarmlord, again, I give him an A- just because he flubbed a lot in the first game. I also want to say it's hard to judge how this list did playing against Genestealer Cult because they are so different to everybody else. I feel like I can't give myself an accurate representation. I played 2 very different lists here. Hive Tyrant did fine. He kind of got obliterated by Neophytes in one game. Didn't do too much the second game. The Shard Gullet, I think, killed all tournament. Killed 2 Neophytes, a Bike, and 1 Terminator. So poor Shard Gullet did nothing. Was unfortunate there. Neurothrope, he's always rock solid, being able to get those casts off. I love having him in the army. Hormagaunts did well. It's unfortunate I couldn't show off their pure strength, giving them Swarmlord rerolls +1 to wound, because all the Genestealer cults had transhuman, mini transhuman, and the Terminators had full transhuman. So they couldn't feel the full effect of those Hormagaunts, but they still did well. Lictor did what the Lictor needed to do in most of the games, getting me behind enemy lines points. Actually, I started the Lictor on the table against the Genestealer cults because I could not go for behind enemy lines against Genestealer cult. Don't try it. You'll probably get 0 points on it. The Genestealers did alright, putting up some early banners, contesting, did great at stalling some Terminators with their 4 Binvone. Overall, you know, they weren't amazing, but I kind of liked them. Maybe I'll just try 1 squad, because the second one, I don't know, the second one never really seemed to do anything. It was always just the 1 squad. So maybe I'll try dropping 1 squad in the future. Parasite did great. Moloch, again, started the Moloch on the table in both Genestealer cult games, just because, you know, it's fast. It's got a lot of attacks. I'm not going for behind enemy lines. And the mortal wounds it does through Deep Strike are meaningless to the Genestealer cult. So put it on the table to slice and dice up my opponent a bit, and it did alright. Screamer Killers, great. Loved having them. Them still being core with all of the buffs I have in this army to boost core was great for them. And Tyranids, big, chunky, soaked up a lot of wounds, and that Flamer does work, not only to Terminators, but of course to Genestealer cult units. So, what did I learn? Like I said, I feel like I can't judge the list in Tyranids too well based on the games I had here. Well, it was great. It was a 5th place finish by me. I believe I was number 2 or 3 on points of people who went 2-1. 2 people undefeated. I learned Genestealer cult are terrifying and really gotta watch out for them when you go up against them in a tournament. They just do so much damage. So careful for them. Tyranids still put up a fight. I know depending on who you look at for stats. If you look at GW, they're as high as 50%. If you look at other places, they're as low as 36%. So I would probably say they're put in the low 40s for their actual win rate. I understand it. I think this army, had I gone up against a Ravenwing Dark Angel list, would have got just smoked. No doubt about it. If I went up against Tau, I'd probably be struggling too. Those two lists scare me, but those two lists always scare me as Tyranids, so I'm going to cut the rambling there. I'm still loving the Tyranids. I might be taking a little bit of a dive away from them and use the rest of my armies before 9th edition wraps up, and then Tyranids are going to be back in 10th edition in a new, hopefully new, brighter, fuller, new plastic model light, whatever that case may be. So we'll stay tuned there. But let me know how Tyranids are faring for you guys. I still like them. I still love them. I'm rocking about a 50% win rate right now, which is all I can really ask for after round 3 or 4 of Nerf. So thank you guys. Thank you, members. Check out the links down below in the description, and we'll see you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios.